Lecture 4, we will be continuing with market abuse and dealing with prohibited trading practices. Next, we will look at prohibited trading practices. So, this is section 80 of the Financial Markets Act, right? So section 81 says no person may, for their own account or on behalf of another, knowingly participate in any of these practices by creating a false or deceptive appearance of the demand or supply or an artificial price for that security. So if you sit and trade in securities without changing the beneficial ownership of security, you're creating demand and supply for that security, which is going to affect the price of the security. So you cannot do that. And then it says B, a person who ought have known is guilty of an offense as well. So 2 says if you contravene those sections, you're guilty of an offense. So now section 83 tells you exactly what these prohibited trading practices are. So take note. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So there are 7 of them. Each one has a different word that they use for it in practice. Okay, so just take note of what they call these certain prohibited trading practices out in the stockbroking world. So if you look at number 3A, okay, if you enter into a regulated market to buy and sell with no change in beneficial ownership. So what you're doing is you're just creating a false appearance of trading activity or creating an artificial market price. That is a prohibited trading practice. This one is called a wash trade. B, you enter the market with the knowledge that an opposite order at the same price has been entered, okay, in order to give the appearance of activity or an artificial price. So in practice, they call this an improperly matched trade because you have an order to buy and an order to sell. If this order to buy and sell are connected, that is a prohibited trading practice. C talks about approving or entering a market at a successively higher or successively lower price. So here you're trying to unduly influence the market price of a security, and they call this a pump or a dump. So they pump up the price or they're dumping on a much lower price. D talks about entering a market near the close in order to change or maintain the closing price of that security, and they call this marking the close. E talks about the auctioning. So if you enter a regulated market during an auction and you cancel your order immediately prior to auctioning, why would you do that? You want to create demand or supply and an artificial price for that security. So in practice, they call this switching and trading during match. F talks about affecting or assisting a market corner. Market corner is also something that is defined in section 77. So if you go back to section 77, the list of definitions for chapter 10, you will see the exact definition of a market corner. G talks about maintaining a level, an artificial price level of a security. So this is a price support scheme. So you want to ensure that the price of a specific security doesn't change in a way you do not want it to. Okay, so for the purposes of section 1, there are certain price stabling mechanizations that are regulated in terms of listing requirements. So if you look at the JSE listing requirements, there are certain things that are regulated which does not create an artificial price. So sometimes it can be to the benefit of a business to do some of these price stabilization techniques. Okay, then it talks about section 3A. Remember, section 3A is of wash trades, no beneficial ownership. So it says, for the purposes of 3A, if the purchase does not change a change of beneficial ownership, but the person had an interest before the sale, that will not be a prohibited trading practice. So it gives you an exclusion because sometimes a person may have a pledge against that security. So there'll be no real change in beneficial ownership, but that is allowed. The last part of market abuse deals with false, misleading, or deceptive statements, promises, and forecasts. So this is section 81 of the Financial Markets Act. So it says here, no person may directly or indirectly make or publish in respect of securities on a regulated market. Remember, regulated market includes overseas markets, or in respect of past or future performance of a company, securities that are listed on the regulated market. Firstly, any statement, promise, or forecast which is misleading in respect of a material fact. A material fact, remember we spoke about it before, that is a fact that will materially affect the price of security. And secondly, you cannot omit a material fact. So you cannot just choose not to disclose a material fact, because that is also a false, misleading, or deceptive statement. Okay, then it talks about a person who made a statement and was unaware and later becomes aware. So if you make a statement and you're unaware that this statement is false, as soon as you become aware, you need to publish a full and frank correction of that statement. So whether you contrive section 1 or 2, you have committed an offense.